effect on that too, the isolating effect.
Yeah.
A lot of people were not their best selves during the pandemic. From a super heavy topic, let me go back to the space where you're one of the most successful people in the world. How to build companies, how to find good companies, what it takes to find good companies, what it takes to build good companies. What advice do you have for someone who wants to build the next super successful startup in the tech space and, have a chance to be impactful, like Facebook, Apple?
I think that's the key word. If your precondition is to start something successful, you've already failed because you're playing somebody else's game. What success means is not clear. You're walking into the woods. It's murky, it's dark, it's wet, it's raining. There's all these animals about. There's no comfort there. So you better really like hiking. And there's no short way to shortcut that. So
isn't it obvious what success is? Like success is scale. So it's not. What are the?
No, I think that there's a very brittle, basic definition of success that's outside in. But it's not. That's not what it is. I know people that are much, much, much richer than I am, and they are just so completely broken. Oh. And I think to myself, the only difference between you and me is outsiders' perception of your wealth versus mine. But the happiness and the joy that I have in the simple, basic routines of my life give me enormous joy. And so I feel successful, no matter what anybody says about my success or lack of success. There are people that live normal lives, that have good jobs, that have good families. I've had this idyllic sense, I see it on TikTok all the time, so I know it exists. These neighborhoods where there's a cul-de-sac and these beautiful homes and these kids are biking around. And every time I see that, Lex, I immediately flash back to what I didn't have. And I think that's success. Look at how happy those kids are. So no, there is no one definition. And so if people are starting out to try to make $1 million, $100 million, $1 billion, you're going to fail.
There's a definition of personal success, but is there's also some level of that's different from person to person, but there's also some level of the responsibility you have if there's a mission to have a positive impact on the world. So I'm not sure that Elon is happy.
No. In fact, I think if you focus on trying to have an impact on the world, I think you're going to end up deeply unhappy.
But does that matter? Why
does
your own personal happiness matter?
It may happen as a byproduct, but I think that you should strive to find your own personal happiness and then measure how that manifests as it relates to society and to other people. But if the answer to those questions is 0, that doesn't make you less of a person.
No, 100%. But then the other way is there times when you just sacrifice your own personal happiness for a bigger thing that you've created.
Yeah, if you're in a position to do it, I think some folks are tested. Elon is probably the best example. And it must be really, really hard to be him. Really hard. I have enormous levels of empathy and care for him. I really love him as a person because I just see that it's not that fun. And he has these ways of being human that in his position, I just think are so dear that I just hope he never loses them. Just a simple example, 2 days ago, I don't know why, but I went on Twitter and I saw the perfume thing. Yeah. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to go buy some perfume. So I bought his perfume, the burnt hair thing.
Yeah.
And I emailed him the receipt and I'm like, all right, you got me for a bottle. And he responded in 8 seconds and it was just a smiley face or whatever.
Yeah.
Just deeply normal things that you do amongst people that are just, so nobody sees that. You know what I mean? But he deserves for that stuff to be seen because the rest of his life is so brutally hard.
Yeah.
He's just a normal guy that is just caught in this ultra mega vortex.
Why do you think there's so few Elons?
It's an extremely lonely set of trade-offs. Because to your point, if you get tested, so if you think about it again probabilistically, there's 8 billion people in the world, maybe 50 of them get put in a position where they are building something of such colossal importance that they even have this choice. And then of that 50, maybe 10 of them are put in a moment where they actually have to make a trade-off. You know, you're not going to be able to see your family. I'm making this up. You're not going to be able to see your family. You're not, you're going to have to basically move into your factory. You're going to have to sleep on the floor. But here's the outcome: energy independence and, resource abundance and peace, a massive peace dividend. And then he says to himself, I don't know that he did because I've never had this conversation. Yeah, you know what? That's worth it. And then you look at your kids and you're like, I'm making this decision. I don't know how to explain that to you.
Yeah.
You want to be in that position? There's no amount of money where I would want to be in that position. So that takes an enormous fortitude and a moral compass that he has. And that's what I think people need to appreciate about that guy.
It's also on the first number you said, it's confusing that there's 50 people or 10 people like that are put in the position to have that level of impact. It's unclear that has to be that way. It seems like there could be much more.
There's definitely people with the potential. But, think about his journey, his mom had to leave a very complicated environment, moved to Canada, moved to Toronto, a small apartment, just north of Bay and Bloor, if you've ever been to Toronto. I remember talking to her about this apartment. It's so crazy because I used to live like around the corner from that place and raise these 3 kids and just have to. So how many people are going to start with those boundary conditions, and really grind it out? It's just very few people in the end that will have the resiliency to stick it through, where you don't give in to the self-doubt. And so it's just a really hard set of boundary conditions where you can have 50 or 100 of these people. That's why they need to be really appreciated.
Yeah, well, that's true for all humans that follow the thread of their passion and do something beautiful in this world. That could be on a small scale or a big scale. Appreciation is that's a gift you give to the other person, but also a gift to yourself. That somehow it becomes like this contagious thing.
I went to this. You are so right. You just my brain just lit up because yesterday I went to an investor day of my friend of mine, this guy Brad Gerstner, and on the one very reductive world, Brad and I are theoretically competitors, but we're not. He makes his own set of decisions. I make my own set of decisions. We're both trying to do our own view of what is good work in the world. But he's been profoundly successful. And it was really the first moment of my adult life where I could sit in a moment like that and really be appreciative of his success and not feel less than. And so, a little selfishly for me, but mostly for him as well, I was so proud to be in the room. That's my friend. That guy plays poker with me every Thursday. He is crushing it. It's awesome. And that's it's a really amazing feeling.